Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast live. Yes. So as you can see, for right now, it's just me. My man G is not here. He's not going to be with us today. Has some stuff to take care of, but we're going to have another special surprise guest coming up shortly. So looking forward to that. But let's go ahead and do some of our intro stuff, get some of the particulars out of the way, and then we'll go from there. All right. So as you can see from the thumbnail, I think we got some pretty interesting topics for you today. Got some good stuff going. We're going to talk some boxing because it seems to kind of be remaining in the front of the sports landscape right now. And of course, the biggest story, we're going to talk Bronny James and him now being a member of the NBA, him joining his father, LeBron James Sr., on the Los Angeles Lakers. That's a huge topic, got a lot of different tentacles to it, so we're going to get to that. Of course, we're going to hit some NFL topics. We're going to talk about Tua Tagovailoa and the fact that he's another quarterback still out there waiting for a new deal. And then we're going to finish it up with what I want to call quick hits. So that's going to be some topics I'm going to just touch on that I didn't want to get into a full segment about them. Really didn't think they were that pertinent, but I did think they were interesting. So wanted to make sure I touched on those. So yeah, let's get going. But before we get to that, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't wait. This one is not going to be as long or as in depth, but we got to bring it up. Tua Tagovailoa, he is waiting on a new contract from the Miami Dolphins, and it appears the Miami Dolphins do not want to give him the money that he's looking for. So this one I thought was kind of interesting. We know that Tua, can I really say he's one of the better quarter? Let's start it here. So this past offseason, a couple of guys have gotten new deals. We saw Jared Goff get 4 years, $212 million. At an what is that, AAV, annual something value, can't remember what the second A is, but $53 million a year, and he got $170 million in total guarantees and $113 million fully guaranteed at the time of signing, which that's pretty good, right? I don't think anyone's going to call Jared Goff a top tier guy, but he's a clear, very good second tier guy. Would you agree with that, Big Red?
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
And, I mean, he did fairly decent last year,
right? And he's been to a Super Bowl before. You know, so there's that, right? All right, so cool. So then Trevor Lawrence, this is the one, and I talked about this a couple weeks back because I thought this was just ridiculous. Trevor Lawrence got a 5-year, $275 million extension, which kicks in 2 years from now. So I think a big piece of it is that the Jaguars were trying to get ahead of it before like the numbers got outrageous. Although in my estimation, 275 mil is outrageous for Trevor Lawrence. So his AAV when it kicks in is going to be $55 million a year, 142 million fully guaranteed at time of signing, and 200 million in total guarantees. So a lot of money, and then 75 million in incentives and all that, right? But the problem I have with that is that if you look at it, his numbers are almost exactly the same as Gardner Minshew, the guy whose job he took, and the guy who's kind of been roaming around the league ever since. Not roaming around. I think he's played for 3 teams since he left Jacksonville. So I don't think that you pay a guy with Gardner Minshew numbers top of the market money, but this is the ridiculousness of the way quarterbacks get paid and some other positions get paid in the NFL. That whole business of whoever's up next. Nah. It needs to be whoever's up best. You know what I'm saying? If I'm better than you, just because, or correction, if Just because you're up next, in my estimation, doesn't mean you should get paid more because you might not be better. You didn't earn
Right.
that. And I'm big on the whole earning and deserving thing. But I guess, it's the way the market works.
Potential, as I guess in Nino's case, what he was talking about earlier, some contracts, especially quarterback, is paid off potential.
Mm-hmm. And we saw that with Justin Herbert. What has Justin Herbert done?
Nothing.
He technically, what does he have? He's got the record for most passing touchdowns by a rookie. He broke
Mhm.
Baker Mayfield's record on that. So all right, cool, you got that. But realistically, I haven't seen anything that would have made me want to give that dude max money last summer. I didn't see it. And I guarantee you his numbers are going to go down playing under Jim Harbaugh, even though Jim Harbaugh is a quarterback whisperer. Why? Jim
Yeah.
Harbaugh believes in physicality between the trenches and pounding the rock on the ground. And so a lot of, he's not going to get the air it out numbers. Jim Harbaugh is not running an air raid. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's not going to happen. Also, Trevor Lawrence's numbers, I heard this as well. It's crazy. They are very similar to Daniel Jones. And everybody thought the Giants were crazy for giving Daniel Jones $40 million a year, and you
Right.
give Trevor Lawrence 55. So it's like, I think part of it is that Trevor Lawrence got all the hype in college, and then coming out of Clemson, he's generational talent and all that, which I said he wasn't. You could check this channel, but I said he wasn't. But I think that sometimes these guys hang on to players just so they don't look bad in their over evaluations. What do you think about that, Big Red?
Well, the whole this the I would love for this era to just die down with this whole overpaying the quarterback. The quarterback is, of course, has become the most important position in the league, and I get that most of the time. I get less in this league where the stats are inflated due to the rules.
Of course.
You got to have a great quarterback, right? There was a time where you could run with a great running back or just a
Yes,
great defense.
that's right. Great,
Defense
right?
could be something that you could be said could win championships.
Mm-hmm.
The league is not quite like that anymore, like it used to. But a lot of times, like you said, Daniel Jones, you didn't have to pay that guy that kind of money. You could have fished and looked for or drafted another quarterback that suits your needs and looks like he could carry your team. Daniel Jones is not that guy. At least I don't think he is to
He's
me.
not. He's not.
You know, Tua, I think Tua's last year was a prove it year because he hadn't been injury free until last year. He finally had an injury free year. He
That's right.
led the league in passing yards. He had
Yes.
a career high in touchdowns. His completion percentage is up to almost 70%.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I said, he had a horrible record against good teams, but still, I mean, it was his fourth year, I think, in the league now.
Mm-hmm.
You could pay him, I think, based off of potential. But I think this era where people were just paying quarterbacks just because they play the quarterback position and based on what they did in college, you overpay them, and then if they don't show improve, then you're stuck with a big contract that you can't hardly get rid of. I
Yeah,
think that era needs to die down.
I think it does too, but I can't see it happening until somebody makes just a terrible, terrible mistake. Like, not saying it's going to be a mistake. Next year, Brock Purdy is going to get paid. He's going to get broke off. He's might 60 or 60 more, 60 plus. And they're
Do
going to
you
have
think
to
he's
do it.
worth it?
Yeah, I do.
You do? Okay.
In that system, I mean, what has he shown? He's gotten consistently better, and he's gotten to what, two NFC title games and a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So, like, can we really argue that he's not worth it? You know what I'm saying? I don't think we
Right.
can. I mean, they put everything around him, but he still had to take advantage of it, and he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. There's
You
no
know,
shame to losing to Kansas City quarterback. I mean,
Mahomes,
it,
yeah.
it was not he got blown out. He just wet the
Right.
bed.
And if we're fair and if we're honest, he left the field that in that Super Bowl at towards the end with a lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Patrick Mahomes is going to be Patrick Mahomes. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think he didn't light it up, but he played as well as he could play
Yeah.
against one of the best big game defensive coordinators in NFL history, in Steve Spagnuolo.
That
So
part. That defense was beyond great. No,
yeah,
the Kansas City defense did not get enough credit.
that's right. And then remember, Spags was also he was the deco with the Giants with that
Mhm.
NASCAR package with Mike Strahan and OCU and Human Ura and Justin Tuck and those boys when
Right.
they beat the Patriots. So Spags knows what he's doing in terms of calling a big game defense. He may be a lousy head coach, but he is an outstanding big game deco. So
Was he with the Rams one time too back in the day? Well, the Kurt
I don't
Warner.
know. I don't know. He
Unless I'm
wouldn't.
thinking about another
He would.
Spags.
He wouldn't have been defensive coordinator. He would have been a position guy back then.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so now we're looking at Tua, and Tua is basically quoted as saying, and it's not an exact quote, but he's quoted as saying, the market is the market, and they're not talking about the numbers where the market should have me. But again, we need to stop this. The market is the market, because if guys got to go out and face the free agent market and realize like, yo, they're not going to pay me what I'm looking for, then so be it. Because Tua, I believe, is 0-6 in less than 45 degrees. So there's a lot of teams,
Ah,
there's a lot of places where he cannot play, right?
right.
Because think about it, and this is no shot at Tua. He's from Hawaii, right? The tropics.
Mhm.
And then when he went to college, he played in Alabama. And then from Alabama, Miami. So he's never had to immerse himself in cold weather. He can't deal with that. He just can't. And we see the evidence. Whenever it gets cold, he freezes up, literally, right?
That's going to be in the contract negotiations. Like, how you do in cold weather when you go to Green Bay and New England? We
Right.
shouldn't pay you that much based off of that.
Correct. I mean, because think about it, Tom Brady's a California guy, but he went to school at Michigan. He learned to deal with the cold, and he's arguably the
Mhm.
best cold weather quarterback ever, right? Tom
Right.
Brady, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, probably the three best cold weather quarterbacks in history. Those guys got it done despite the weather. And
Right.
so this, again, it's no shot at Tua, but some of these guys need to really reevaluate themselves and understand, like, I'm not what I think I am, and the market may be where it is, but that's for guys who are better than me. That's not for me, right?
Do you think but this basically what this is inflation with the quarterback
Yes,
position. And I
yes.
I can't remember what person I heard mention it one time. It might have been old dude from the Odd Couple,
Oh,
um
Rob Parker.
Rob Parker. It might
Yeah,
have been
I
him that
love
mentioned that about
that
having
movie.
a cap on the quarterback position.
So I think this is something that was brought up and is possibly being discussed. I don't know, not a cap, but a separate salary cap just for quarterbacks. I think
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that's what they're talking about, because it makes it really difficult to manage the salary cap. That's why this whole business of try to get a quarterback on the rookie deal and then build around him and try to win before you have to pay him. That's where
Mhm.
that whole thing came from. So yeah, when you talk about these quarterbacks on the rookie deal, and then when you gotta pay him how much it hurts your cap, it's vicious. And
Exactly. Yeah.
you have to plan for that, and you
Yeah.
have to figure it out.
Mhm. And you're paying on potential, not even a
Right.
quarterback that's not good yet. So you can't build a championship team around them because you're taking such a big cap hit because it
That's
keeps
right.
going up, seems like every year.
Right. And then here's the other thing, right? I have talked about Dak Prescott constantly, and how I didn't believe that this is a guy
Mm,
who should be resetting the market, because he's what Shannon Sharp likes to call empty calories, because
I
he'll
go
give
with
you
that.
all those pretty regular season numbers, but where is he in the playoffs? But that said, I didn't realize how much it would destroy the salary cap in Dallas just to let him go. It'll be, I think, 54, $55 million cap hit next season if they let him walk and don't re-sign him. He's got all the leverage. So you got that cap hit. He's
Oh,
got
because he
no
got a couple
trade.
years left on.
No, no, no. He's good after this year.
Mhm.
Unrestricted free agent. He's
Okay.
unrestricted free agent after this year. No trade clause, no franchise tag clause, and it'll be a brutal hit to the salary cap if they let him go. So I don't know what they're gonna do. But the point is, a situation like that, um, Tua is much like Dak in that he puts up pretty regular season numbers, but you can't count on this dude in the postseason. And again, number one, he can't deal with the cold, and number two, he just doesn't show up. Now, don't get me wrong; they put everything they could around him. Now he's got weapons. He's got HN. He's got Mostert. He's got a creative offensive mind as his primary play caller. His head coach, Mike McDaniel. He's got obviously Tyreek Hill. He's got Jalen Waddle, two absolute speed demons on the outside. If he can't get it done and make a run with these guys, like, you know, now if you don't pay him before the season starts and he plays the season and makes a run, then you're really over a barrel. You're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to get this dude like $58 million a year at that point. But I'm always willing to take the gamble. You got to show me first before I cut the check. I'm always about taking that gamble. And
Well,
being a Ravens fan, we saw this years ago with Joe Flacco. and it ended up that he bet on himself and let him, helped to lead them to a championship in 2012, 2013.
Where would you put Tua at? Let's say there's 3 tiers of quarterback. Where would you put him at on the tier?
Second tier,
Second
like
tier.
mid to lower second tier, probably. I haven't sat back and mapped that out, but that sounds about right. Mid second tier, because like to me, the top of the second tier in any sport, when you're ranking guys, the top of the second tier, if something gets a little funny at the bottom of the first tier, they can get into the first tier, and I don't see Tua as being a first tier guy. So I would say mid second tier. Where do you have him?
Mid tier. I'm trying to say, does he have potential to get to the first tier? Not when I say someone's first tier, they can do it without having all the right pieces in place.
Okay.
Like
Right.
Dak Prescott, he's in the mid tier, but he has to have the right pieces in check. Patrick Mahomes, he lost a lot of his offense. Offensive line wasn't the greatest last year, and he still got it done. He lost one of the best wide receivers in the game and still got it done. Top tier. Brady was top tier.
Of course.
I don't think I can see Tua getting to the top tier spot.
I agree. We're in lockstep on that. All right. So,
I was say one other point, and that's probably a detriment in a way to Patrick Mahomes. Yes, he's that talented, but they didn't put all the pieces around him because they thought, well, he can do it without us, putting ourselves in a hole and trying to find pieces to fill up because he's that great. Versus Prescott or Tua, we know they're not that great, and the cap hit's going to hurt us even more because if we don't have the right pieces and we don't break the bank to put all these other pieces around him, then we may not get anywhere because he's not that great of a talent. So general managers or owners can rest for top tiers like Mahomes or Brady because it's like, we don't have to spend all this money because our players is great. We can sit back and let him do the magic.
Right. No, and it sucks, like especially when you get a quarterback that's super mobile, like a Lamar or one of those guys. A lot of times the owners say, "Oh wow, okay, I don't have to spend on elite weapons for these guys, or I don't have to spend on an elite left tackle for these guys." The coaches tell them, "Hey, when in doubt, make something happen with your legs," but that's not always the answer. Imagine if you have, you got a guy like a Lamar. And then the Ravens did a really good job of getting him Derrick Henry, and they drafted Zay Flowers, and they have a decent receiving core, not an elite one, but now when you got Derrick Henry, you're gonna have 8 in the box on a very regular basis, and so that opens up Lamar Jackson to do the things with his legs even more. And as he continues to progress in the passing game, even more dangerous. You got Mark Andrews back, etc. So you look at situations like that, but when you have those uber elite athletic quarterbacks, a lot of times owners are, they're, doing the evil bad guy in cartoons thing, rubbing their hands together and grinning because they're like, I don't have to spend this money on getting this guy weapons now. But they really are looking at it in the wrong way. Of course, it's easy for me to say it's not my money, right?
Well, that's why I was worried about with Lamar was, yes, he can run his behind off. One of the greatest running, if not the greatest running quarterback of all time, even in his short, tenure in the NFL. It's like, well, he's so talented, we're going to depend on him. But as we saw with Michael Vick, as we saw with Cam Newton, you can use your legs for so much, but you're going to have a shortened career. I said, you got to give him some help so he'll be more of a pass first quarterback, and he can use his legs when needed. When there's no other passing avenues for him to go to, then use your legs, but not use your legs first. It's usually that's what happened with running backs in this league. They usually have a short career, and they're running to the ground before they even hit 30. What do you think is going to happen to a running back? That it's usually smaller. I know Cam Newton was a big guy. Lamar is a big guy too, but let these guys be quarterbacks first, pass first quarterbacks, get the talent around them, and don't shorten their careers just because they're talented.
Right. No, I'm with you because CJ Stroud, he showed 2 years ago in that game against Georgia in the college football playoff. He showed that he was more mobile than anyone ever thought. But guess what? He'll slice and dice you from the pocket. He's not doing that unless he absolutely has to. So, yep, there's that. But okay, let's go ahead and we'll leave this topic right here. We'll open up the phone lines again. If anybody wants to call in, Tua, do you think he should get what the market says he should get? What do you think about the state of the way quarterbacks get paid in the modern NBA? Yeah, give us a call, and appreciate you, Nino. Give us a call, 904-219-8264, 904-219-8264. If we don't get any calls, then we'll go ahead and take it to the last topic, which I want to call quick hits, and I'll explain that shortly. Yeah, I can't see paying Tua, 58, $60 million a year. I just can't. He doesn't have elite arm talent. He doesn't have elite mobility. He's only been healthy 1 year. He's got a lot of weapons around him, and again, he can't play in the cold, and he doesn't play well against winning teams. It's a problem. You can't pay a guy like that kind of money unless he makes a very deep playoff run or brings you a chip. And if he does that, then you have to pay him, plain and simple.
All
So,
right.
yes.
But it makes it hard for your agent not to argue for it when you got Daniel Jones getting paid.
Yeah, and then you get Trevor Lawrence getting paid, and Tua can say,
Yeah.
"Yo, I'm better than him."
Right.
Right. But you know what? The Dolphins can say, Trevor Lawrence has a playoff win. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Like, I'm not the guy. Like the pretty numbers and all that are great, but I'm not the guy who gets super excited about that because I want to see those numbers when it counts the most. And if you can't deliver them, then
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean anything to me.